Okay, so most people don't need more information about real estate. What they actually need is somebody who's willing to explain it to them and walk them through the process. Boom. I got my cup of coffee, and that's why I'm here. You got Isaiah Leslie. I am a Chicago based realtor in Chicagoland, but I'm also licensed out in Texas. I have rural experience, residential experience, commercial experience, investor experience, first time homebuyer experience. I have experience negotiating with Fortune 500 companies and beating them at the closing table. So trust me when I say that my first time homebuyer university is one of the best and you won't get any more valuable information anywhere else. So if that's something you're interested in, do not hesitate to hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and give me a like, a comment. And if you still are just not getting enough of me, go follow me on my main channel. I'm gonna link it in the description. Then I'm gonna tell you to follow me on my backup channel. I'm gonna link that in the description. And if you're still not done hearing me yap, I'm gonna also link one more thing. I'm gonna link my podcast, Euphorically Spiritual, which we're gonna have a new season coming up very, very, very shortly. So with that all being said, I'm not done. If you're also interested in hearing me, like you want to hear more about my daily life, my day-to-day, what I do as a realtor, want to hear more about my listings, things like that, go ahead and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I know you're like, LinkedIn, we don't have a LinkedIn, we're on YouTube. I'm just trying to learn how to get rich. If you're trying to learn how to get rich, for one, you need to go build yourself a LinkedIn. And once you build yourself a LinkedIn, you need to go follow me. Now that we got all of that out of the way, you done built yourself a LinkedIn, you done follow me on all of my platforms, you subscribe, now you're ready to learn how you're gonna buy your house. This is what I would like to call my first time homebuyer university. This is where we're gonna break down the housing market, credit, we're gonna break down the actual process of buying a home based on the real numbers from the Chicagoland area. So we're going to talk about Chicago, we're going to talk about the suburbs, we're going to talk about buying programs and down payment assistance. We're going to talk about everything under the sun. And it's all based on facts, not opinions, not speculation. We're using real market data, which is why I thought today's video would be the perfect starting point for my series dedicated to first-time homebuyers. So what y'all don't know is for the next 30 days, I'm gonna be posting one video, maybe more, every single day. And that video is gonna be dedicated to one thing. It's gonna be dedicated to that university topic that we're talking about this week. So for this week, it's gonna be the first-time homebuyer university. Next week, we're going to have the for sale by owner university. The week after that, we're going to have the expired, withdrawal, and canceled university. And then the week after that, we're going to have, this is a little special university where I'm putting it together right now. So it's not all fleshed out, but it's going to be the first time investor series, where we talk about house hacking, investing in properties with multiple units, or just investing in a property for yourself that you might live in for a year or two and then renting it out. It's one of the best ways to get into real estate. And what they don't tell you is that 80% of people making over $1 million a year have diversified at some point in their journey into real estate. And 80 to 90% of all wealthy people have attributed real estate to being one of their main drivers of success. So what does that mean? That means that we're starting here for first-time home buyers. You might be somebody who is maybe in the market to buy and you're thinking about it, you're renting. You might even be paying more than $2,500 a month to move into your new place. And if you're paying more than $2,500 per month, period, you need to buy, period. So where does that leave us today? Chicago home prices are up. Rent is up. Property taxes are up. So explain this to me. Why does it feel like nobody's actually moving or doing anything? Sorry about that. I was looking at don't mind me. Why does it feel like nobody's actually moving? I was recently reviewing a property that was sitting at around $220,000 in the south suburbs. It was not perfect. But it checked the boxes that most first-time buyers are actually looking for. It has space, it is livable, and it was priced within a range that should attract attention. So what does that mean for the market? I would say that for that unit, I just looked at it publicly and the information that was available on it publicly. It had over 500 views, multiple saves. People were clearly looking at the property, but almost nobody was scheduling or viewing the property and putting in offers. So it was at that moment right there, the gap between attention and action. That is really what the Chicago housing market looks like right now in the first stages of Q2 of 2026. Based on the surface, the numbers say one thing, but behavior is just simply put saying something else. So let's slow this down and actually look at the numbers, not opinions, not headlines, just what the market is doing. If we isolate Q1 of 2026, January through March, the data is very clear. So in the Chicago metropolitan area, median home prices are sitting between $380,000 and $390,000, and that's up in between 5 and 6%. Compared to the same time last year, not drastic, but it is up. At the same time, closed sales are down, roughly between 4 and 8%, depending on the property type. So inventory has slightly improved over the last couple of years. We're still recovering from that COVID era weird period that we were in, but it is still long-term, like it's still way below long-term numbers. And it's crazy. About 1 in 4 listings, 20 to 25%, they're reducing their price before even going under contract. So if we sit with just those topical facts for just one moment, prices are up, sales are down, inventory is tight, and a quarter of sellers are adjusting mid-listing. Those things are not supposed to coincide. That's not supposed to happen in a simple market. So why does it feel like this and what's going on? But if you look at that combination, you kind of get it. Everything starts to kind of level out. Because what you're now looking at is not just housing. We're looking at cost to live in a big city right now. And this is the part that most people don't really consider. In early 2026, inflation in the Chicago area is still affecting everyday life. Shelter costs are up. Shelter, which means housing, home costs, are up around 4% year over year. Rent is up closer to 4 to 5% year over year. Food is up over 7% year over year. Gas is up 15% for Chicagoans. So before someone even thinks about buying the house, they're already dealing with just an overall generalized sense of life costs more. The cost of living is higher. How do we reconcile this as realtors with the fact that the cost to owning a home is just simply more expensive? What does that look like for us in our brand as realtors, and how do we help people get to the closing table? Because we always want everybody that we know to own a home. That's kind of our job. It's our main purpose. Now, we've gone over just the general inflation and the cost of living in the Chicagoland area. We live in a high cost space. But even before thinking about buying a house, you're dealing with that. Now layer these costs on top of that. If you're looking at mortgage rates sitting around 6 to 6.5%, take a median home price around $390,000. Even with a reasonable down payment, you're looking at around $2,100 to $2,300 a month in principal and interest alone. That's before you get to property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities. And then in Illinois, you have to remember that those costs can easily get you up to $15,000, $20,000 a year on top of your just general mortgage. And once we bring property taxes into that equation, which in Cook County has been one of the highest and biggest pressure points because they are raising taxes like crazy. They raise taxes so much. Long-term property taxes in the county and Cook County have increased 182% since 1995, outpacing both inflation and wage growth, which is at 160%. So we're looking at a society who our cost to live is rapidly outpacing our costs to work, or our pay. We're basically making not enough to keep up with the fact that the cost of living is just going up. So now, if we're being honest about what the city is actually experiencing, this is no longer just a housing decision. This is a full decision, a full financial decision about living in a big city. So when a buyer looks at a property like that $220,000 home I mentioned earlier, they're not just asking, do I like this house? They're asking, can I afford this payment? While rent alternatives are rising, while taxes are unpredictable, while my everyday expenses are still increasing. That is why behavior has not changed. Buyers are not ready to shift that burden into something so fixed when life is so fragile and expensive in an area where, truthfully, so the buyers did not disappear. I don't think they disappeared. People are still buying houses. We live in one of the biggest cities in the country. The third biggest, to be exact. Buyers did not disappear. They did not walk away. They became more analytical. They became more strategic. They became more thoughtful, more cautious, and they started running the full math before they even stepped inside of a property. Something that I realized is that a lot of times the buyers, when they're shopping on their own, typically they go without that pre-approval first. If you're working with an agent, what I've noticed is buyers are actually really willing to take that advice of, I don't want to say like take the advice, but like take that like step of getting that pre-approval first, so then they can really understand what they can afford, and not only what they can afford, but what they qualify for. Because what you can afford and what you qualify for are two different numbers, which a lot of people don't really acknowledge all of the time. So now a listing is really getting attention, but still not pulling offers. And the seller can be motivated and still not getting offers. So a buyer can absolutely want to buy a home and still hesitate. And that's what's happening right now. All of that can exist at the same time in the same market. And that is what Chicago 2026 looks like. It's not frozen. It's not crashing. It's still moving, but it's moving under pressure or under stress. And I think that a lot of buyers, like if you're a smart buyer, if you're a buyer with a consistent job, a stable job, that you know that in a few years you'll be able to refinance, you know that you pay your bills on time. I think that a lot of buyers aren't really that concerned, but I think that the buyers that are concerned are just seeing the market for what it is. It's an unstable time to be a first-time buyer, but it's not an impossible time. And truthfully, if you play your cards right, it kind of can be one of the most strategic times to buy a home. It's a moving market. Sellers are still coming to market because prices are holding, and in many cases still rising in a lot of areas. Buyers are still active, but they are a little selective, and monthly costs matter more than the purchase price alone. Remember that. Renters are feeling squeezed and rent continues to increase, but buying feels heavier than it actually used to, because everything feels heavier than it used to, because everything costs more than it used to. Okay, so the market continues to move. It's moving slow. We are more slow, more strategic, and with more negotiation than we've seen in recent years. And the biggest mistake I've seen right now is waiting for clarity, because people think at some point the market will change. Well, let me tell you. The data is the clarity that you need. Prices are rising. If prices are rising and you know that the prices have always risen in real estate, with the exception of like extreme global turmoil, you should also know that if you wait any longer, the prices will only get higher and you won't be more persuaded to buy. So make the decision, pull the trigger, and take the risk, because you're spending that money on a rental anyway. Now, what I will say is, prices are rising, costs are rising, buyer behavior has shifted. This is not a little temporary confusion. It's a new environment. That's what we're operating in a new environment for buyers. So if you're a buyer, the question is not, should I wait? The better question is, do these numbers make sense in this version of the market that I'm living in? That should be your question when you're really analyzing what your next move is and whether or not you should buy. Because if they do, waiting will not help you. It will just mean you pay more later in a different market that never gave you the simple reset that you were looking for, because we don't have those anymore. So if you're waiting for the market to settle out and stabilize, let me tell you something. In a year, you're going to be paying more. In 2 years, you're going to be paying more. In 10 years, you're going to be paying a hell of a lot more. So pull the fucking trigger, damn it. And if they don't, like if the numbers just don't work for you, don't stress out. You're not missing out on anything. Go get your credit right. Go get a higher paying job. Do what you have to do to buy a home. That's just it. Because the next thing that we're going to talk about is credit. And a lot of people sitting on the sidelines, they think they're disqualified, but what they don't know is they're just disincentivized. A lot of people have been disincentivized out of the home buying process because they've been miseducated. So we're going to talk about that in the next video. And I'm going to break down the real credit score you need to buy a home in Illinois and how lenders evaluate you and why so many people delay themselves before they even get started. See, this is where I'm going to leave off, right? Clarity is leverage. That's all I'm going to say. Well, actually, that's not all I'm going to say. I got a lot more to say. But where I'm going to leave it for today is clarity is leverage. And I will see you in the next one. Okay, let's see. Let's see.